morning, everyone. I hope that you had a good Easter and you are ready to come back to work. Today we are so far we have learned how to factor difference between two squares, perfect square, how to factor quadratic with three terms when a is 1, how to factor common factors. We learned each one of them separately. Now we are going to combine them together because this is what you will see actually in questions. Like, you will not gonna know which type of factoring we are going to do. So there are certain steps. I will put it in a kind of chart. I used to, when I have a big board, I used to make a chart, but because of the circumstances we have now, I'm going to do it in steps. If we follow those steps in every factoring questions, we're never gonna have trouble. Okay, so the title of today's lesson factor quadratics mixed factors. So all the types, we don't know ahead of the time what type we are going to factor. Okay, so the first step of any factoring question is factor the great common factor. This is the first step of any factoring process. So the first thing we're going to do is always look for common factors, if any. Common factors like this: if we have 3x cubed minus 9x squared plus 27x. The first thing, before we try to factor anything, is we look for common factors. 3 is the highest common divisor on all of these, so we're going to take 3 out. X is common, so we factor the x out. What will remain inside? We're going to divide each term with the common factor, so that will give us x squared minus 3x plus 9. Then we are going to factor what's remaining. So the first step is to factor out the great common factor. Okay? Again, I'm telling you the steps we are going to follow, so I'd rather you to copy this down so you can apply them in every question we are going to see. Okay, so the first step is to factor the common out, the common factor out. Now, there is, if we imagine that there is a chart, in this left side is branch A, which is if we have two terms quadratic. So after we look for common factors, if any, we look, do we have two terms quadratic or three terms? Like, do we have like something like 3x squared plus 9, 2x squared minus 5, x squared minus 16? All of those are two terms factor. So two terms quadratic. So what we're gonna do is see if you have a perfect difference between two squares. So difference of two squares in the form of a squared minus b squared. So we factor this as a minus b, a plus b. So for example, let's say we have 8x squared minus 18. Again, the first step of any factoring is to look for common factors. So 2 is common. That will leave inside 4x squared minus 9. This is a perfect square, this is a perfect square, and minus between them, so we can factor as 2, then we factor whatever remained, so 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. Another example, if we have x squared minus 4, for example, we factor this as x minus 2, x plus 2. So, there is no common factor, so I just looked, I found perfect square minus a perfect square. So that means I have to factor the difference between two squares this way. Okay, very important. We cannot factor if there is a plus. Can't factor. So, I repeat again, the first step of any factor is to look for common factors, always. This is the first step. Second step, we go to the left side of the chart we have and see if we have the difference between two squares. It is in this form, perfect square minus a perfect square. Then we factor the difference between two squares like this. If it's plus, we cannot do it. Okay? So this is branch A, the left side of the branch of the chart. Okay? Now we are going to deal with the right side of the chart, B, which is we have three terms. Again, we're going to start by looking for common factors. We factor it out. After that, we try to factor what remains. So the first thing, we need to check if the three terms in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. If we have a perfect square. What's a perfect square? Three conditions. A is a perfect square. Like 1, 4, 9, etc. C is also a perfect square. 2 times square root of A times square root of C equal B. If we have this, we have a perfect square. Example for that, let's say we have 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. I get this quadratic and I want to factor. Okay, what is the first step? Always look for common factors. Nothing is common. Okay. Second step, is this 2 or 3 terms? Those are 3 terms. So we are going to go to this branch of the chart, which is, first thing we check if it's a perfect square or not. Yes, A is a perfect square, C is a perfect square. Square root of 4 times square root of 25 times 2 will give us the middle term. So yes, this is a perfect square. How we factor this? We open one bracket, we put a square here, then square root of the first, so 2x, sine of the middle, minus square root of the third, 5. We are done factoring. Okay? So this is the first thing we need to do if we have 3 terms. First thing, look for common factors. have inside the perfect square or not? If yes, do the factoring of the perfect square. Okay? Now, the second step. Three terms, not number two, not a perfect square. And a equal 1. In this case, look for two numbers multiply to C and add to B. So example for this, x squared minus 3x plus 2. Again, how I factor this? First thing, I look for common factors. Is there any? No. Alright. This is 3 terms or 2 terms. This is 3 terms. So we are going to the right branch. Is this a perfect square? Yes, A is a perfect square, but C is not, so it is not a perfect square. Now, what is the next thing we see? Is A is 1? It's not a perfect square. Is A is 1? Yes, it is. So what we're gonna do, we open right away 2 brackets, we put x and x, we think of 2 numbers, multiply to C and add to B. So what are the 2 numbers that multiply to 2 and at the same time add to negative 3? It is negative 1 and negative 2. Add to negative 3. So negative 1 and negative 2. Okay? This is what we have to do in this case. Okay? The last thing is third, not a perfect square. A doesn't equal 1. Use AC method. Okay, how we use AC method? I'm going to give you an example for AC method. Okay, let's say 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. First thing, I will look for common factors. Nothing is common. Second thing, is this a perfect square? No, A is not a perfect square. This is 3 terms, so right side. Is A 1? No. So what we're going to do? AC method. What is AC method? Multiply A and the C. So 2 times 3 is 6. Now we need to think of 2 numbers, multiply to 6 and add to negative 5. So negative 3 and negative 2. Then we're going to rewrite this and break the middle term using these 2 terms. Alright, so 2x squared. It doesn't matter if I write negative 3x first or negative 2x. It will not going to make a difference. So whatever you prefer, I will write negative 3x first. It doesn't make any difference. Minus 2x. This is add up to negative 5x plus 3. Then we factor by grouping. So we group this and that, and we factor. So x is out, that will leave 2x minus 3, and here I factor the negative 1 out. I said before, when we have a negative, we factor it out. Then 2x minus 3, and that will leave x minus 1. And this is factoring the perfect square. In the next video, I will give you examples, and we are done. Okay, bye.